As Emily walked in, she saw Grace's distant niece, Sophia, standing at the door with a regretful expression.
Emily, I'm sorry. I accidentally ruined your dress.
Before Emily could respond, Grace rushed out of the room.
Emily, Sophia is still young and not used to doing housework. It's just a dress, don't hold it against her.
The dress in Grace's hand was a modified cheongsam made of Shangyun silk, a precious birthday gift from Emily's best friend. It had taken months of waiting to get it made. Sophia's eyes flashed with a hint of smugness upon hearing Grace's words, as if she was certain Emily wouldn't pursue the matter.
Emily, I felt bad for staying at your and John's place without contributing, so I wanted to help with some chores. You won't blame me, will you?
Emily opened her mouth to speak, but Grace interrupted.
Of course, she won't blame you. You're so considerate, helping out even while expecting. Just for that, you can't be blamed.
Grace's elbow jabbed sharply into Emily's side, urging her to respond.
Say something.
Suppressing her anger, Emily spoke calmly.
I don't blame you, but you should take care of yourself. Don't do any more housework.
Sophia didn't even bother to hide her smugness upon hearing Emily's words.
Emily, you're so kind.
Feeling disgusted, Emily went to her room and found John.
John, what exactly is Sophia's relation to your family?
She actually wanted to complain about Sophia's petty tricks, but decided to probe first. She had seen such manipulative tactics often in the workplace, where jealousy led to deliberate sabotage followed by moral blackmail. Her way of dealing with such manipulations at work was simple. She would add them to her project team and conduct a surprise inspection just before the deadline. Many manipulators faced the consequences of her surprise inspections and ended up leaving the company. But this manipulator was in her home and had a family connection, so she couldn't act rashly. She needed to know John's stance first. To Emily's surprise, she saw guilt in John's eyes. He rubbed his hands together, a habit he had whenever he lied.
Sophia is Mom's distant niece. We were close when we were kids. Don't overthink it.
Strange, Emily hadn't even mentioned their relationship, so why was he feeling guilty? Moreover, both Grace and John's attitudes were too strange. No matter how close you are to a distant relative, you wouldn't tolerate this much, especially allowing Sophia to act like the lady of the house. Who stays at someone else's place without feeling like a guest and behaves so boldly? Sophia was particularly special. There must be something between them. I decided to be cautious and deliberately posted my new handbag on social media the next day.
After working hard, it's time to treat myself. Thank you, Mr. Lin, for all your hard work.
The picture showed my handbag, a large bouquet of roses, and a photo of John and me. I didn't take the bag to work, I intentionally left it on the display shelf in the living room. Sure enough, as soon as I got home, I saw Sophia walking towards me tearfully, holding the bag with a large hole burned by an aromatic candle.
Sis, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to light an aromatic candle. I didn't expect this to happen.
Before I could say anything, Grace rushed out.
It's just a bag. Why are you arguing with Sophia, who is expecting?
I glanced at Grace without saying a word. Grace felt guilty under my cold gaze and shouted again.
It's just a bag. Sophia is pregnant, don't you understand? Can a bag be more valuable than a child?
I remained silent, just coldly watching Sophia and Grace. Sophia was just a distant relative, not even closely related. Why was she so agitated? After a long while, Grace reluctantly turned around, planning to take Sophia back to her room. Sophia, not achieving her goal and not making me suffer, felt uncomfortable and struggled not to leave, still trying to guilt-trip me.
Sis, I really didn't mean to.
If it wasn't intentional, then compensate for it.
Sophia was stunned, as if she had misheard. Grace was much more agitated, pointing at my nose and scolding me.
Isabella, are you obsessed with money? Sophia is a relative. It was just an accident. How can you be so petty and make her pay for such an expensive item?
Mom, you know this bag is expensive. Glancing at her, then why didn't you keep an eye on her? And you, if you know you're clumsy, why can't you control yourself?
Sophia's eyes widened, unable to believe she was being scolded.
Sis. I didn't mean to.
Whether intentional or not, damaging property requires compensation. Even kindergarten kids know this. I won't argue about the previous damages, but after compensating for this bag, you should find another place to stay.
Find another place? Sis, are you kicking me out? Where can I go if I leave here?
What? Find another place?
Grace's expression was fierce, as if she wanted to slap me.
How can you be so heartless, kicking out a pregnant Sophia?
This is not her home.
I interrupted Grace's nonsense, pointing to the living room.
If she doesn't compensate, we'll go through legal procedures. We have surveillance cameras at home.
You. How is this not Sophia's home? I decide she stays, and you dare to challenge me? Isabella, get out here. I'm telling you, Sophia stays. If you can't stand her, you can leave.
I closed the door, ignoring Grace's harsh words in the living room, waiting for John to come back and explain the situation to him. Who knew the first thing John said when he got home was,
Are you kicking Sophia out?
I was stunned, swallowing the words that were about to come out. Seeing my silence, he frowned and continued to blame me.
Sophia is pregnant and doesn't know anyone here. What if something happens if you kick her out?
If she's pregnant, she should call her husband.
John shuddered and unconsciously rubbed his hands.
Sophia's husband, he.
John stammered for a long time, still unable to find a suitable reason. In the end, he suddenly got angry, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, waving his claws in agitation.
How can you be so heartless? When we got married, you were so kind and generous. How can you not tolerate my cousin now? Do you think there's something between me and her? Isabella, you really disappoint me.
I was baffled by his scolding, frowning, and reached out to pull his sleeve, wanting him to calm down. Anger wouldn't solve anything. It was better to sit down and talk, each taking a step back. Who knew as soon as I touched his sleeve, he pushed me away.
The force was so strong that I fell to the ground.
Enough, Isabella. I don't want to see your unreasonable behavior. If you can't stand Sophia, you can move out.
This sentence was like a knife, stabbing deeply into my heart. The John in front of me was terrifyingly unfamiliar. The John in my memory was gentle, never raising his voice at me. Even when I had conflicts with Grace, he would mediate. When I didn't want to live with Grace, he decided we wouldn't live together. When I didn't like children and wanted to be child-free, he agreed without hesitation, even if others mocked him for being a henpecked husband. We had been married for 5 years, from college sweethearts to now. He accompanied me in starting a business, sacrificing his career prospects. I thought we would live happily ever after. But why did Sophia cause such a big argument between us? And Sophia was just an outsider, a relative? Despite the bond with a distant relative, tolerating this much was unthinkable. Allowing Sophia to act like the lady of the house was beyond reason. Who stays at someone else's place without feeling like a guest and behaves so boldly? Sophia was particularly special. There must be something between them.
Angry, we need to talk, Isabella. This situation is getting out of hand.
Sad, Andrew, what do you expect? You've let her take over our home.
Serious, she's family, Isabella. She needed a place to stay.
Angry, not like this. Not by pushing me out.
As Andrew suggested, I moved out of our spacious marital home and returned to the villa my parents had prepared for me before the wedding. No matter how close you are to a distant relative, you wouldn't tolerate this much. Especially allowing Sophia to act like the lady of the house. No matter how close you are to a distant relative, you wouldn't tolerate this much. Especially allowing Sophia to act like the lady of the house. Who stays at someone else's place without feeling like a guest and behaves so boldly? Sophia was particularly special. There must be something between them.
This is outrageous. It's like she's taken over the house.
How can someone be so brazen about being the other woman? And that Andrew living off a woman. What a disgrace. I swear I'll expose these shameless people.
Don't.
Molly had a fiery temper, and I quickly stopped her.
Andrew has already transferred my assets. If we alert him now, we won't be able to recover the transferred assets.
My fists clenched tightly, and in my extreme anger, I had forgotten how to vent my suppressed emotions.
I want these two scoundrels to leave with nothing, to return every penny of my family's money. He wants to marry Sophia? I'll send them my best wishes. Let's see how they stay together once Sophia is in debt. Molly wasn't foolish. She knew that venting our emotions now would only lead to greater losses. She angrily dragged me to the boxing gym, and after an hour of sparring, she followed my plan to contact Sophia, posing as a company executive to sign her. Since Sophia loved flaunting her perfect husband online, let her continue. The higher she climbs, the harder she'll fall. I was waiting for the day her affair would be exposed. Before that, we needed to elevate her status. I trusted Molly to handle it. With her persuasive skills, Sophia was easily convinced to sign a contract with a tenfold penalty clause.
That woman is truly disgusting. When she saw the Cartier ring on my hand, her eyes practically burned with jealousy.
She can't stand seeing others happy?
You wouldn't believe it. As soon as I sat down, she kept bragging about how much her husband loves her, how she doesn't need to work, and how making videos is just a hobby.
She's been the other woman for so long, she needs validation. The internet is the easiest place to get it since no one knows her there. I put away the contract, my nails scraping over Sophia's name. If it were Sophia's face I was scraping, I'd be even happier. Narrator, tone, serious. No matter how close you are to a distant relative, you wouldn't tolerate this much. Especially allowing Sophia to act like the lady of the house.
What are you doing? Why didn't you call before coming back? Sophia is live streaming.
Mom, this is my home. Can't I come back?
Narrator, tone, serious. Before Isabella could finish, Grace covered her mouth.
Why did you bring so many gifts? Oh my, you're too kind.
Haha, my sister-in-law is back.
Narrator, tone, serious. To cover for Sophia, Grace went to such lengths. Isabella thought of what Sophia said in the hospital and couldn't help but push Grace's hand away, stepping into the living room.
Pack it up.
Narrator, tone, serious. Sophia glared at Isabella resentfully, reluctantly ending the live stream.
You bully Sophia as soon as you come back. Is this how you act as a sister?
Auntie, don't say that about my sister-in-law. She didn't mean it.
How could she not mean it? I think she deliberately interrupted your live stream. If it weren't for her, you would have received more gifts today.
Narrator, tone, serious. The more Grace thought about it, the angrier she got. She pushed Isabella to the ground.
How did our family end up with such a wasteful daughter-in-law? It's a disgrace, a disgrace.
Mom, this is my home. Why can't I come back?
You still have the nerve to say that. Do you treat this as your home? You leave for days on end, and Sophia and I have to go downstairs to buy groceries. The supermarket at the corner is a rip-off. A single steak costs over $100. Is it made of gold?
You usually eat from that supermarket.
Narrator, tone, serious. Grace's face turned red.
And you call yourself a good daughter-in-law? You don't even know where you go every day, leaving an old woman to do the housework and buy groceries.
I hired a housekeeper to clean twice a week, and I give you $2,000 a month. Isn't that enough?
You only give that little. How is it enough? Sophia's supplements and checkups.
Aren't those supposed to be handled by Sophia's husband, her mother-in-law, and her parents? Why are you taking it all on?
Narrator, tone, serious. Grace opened her mouth, not expecting her usually compliant daughter-in-law to argue back, hitting her weak spots with every word. She didn't dare admit she was taking on everything out of concern for her unborn grandchild.
Sophia, you're an adult. You should know the value of independence. My mother-in-law is just your relative. How can you shamelessly rely on her, and on a relative at that?
Narrator, tone, serious. Sophia put on a pitiful face, but her eyes were full of hatred for Isabella.
Sophia, this is my home. I didn't mind when you broke my things before, but live streaming without my permission is an invasion of my privacy. I can ask you to leave anytime.
What? Do you have any conscience? Sophia is expecting, and you want to kick her out?
Narrator, tone, serious. Isabella covered her face, reaching her limit.
If Sophia is expecting, let her in-laws take her. This is my marital home, and I make the decisions.
Narrator, tone, serious. Unable to argue back, Grace started to throw a tantrum.
Oh, what kind of mother-in-law am I, being bullied by my daughter-in-law like this? If you kick out my niece today, will you kick me out tomorrow? No conscience at all.
Narrator, tone, serious. Grace cried and wailed. Sophia shed crocodile tears on the side. Isabella couldn't take it anymore. Narrator, tone, serious. The door suddenly opened, and Andrew stood at the entrance. Seeing Andrew, Grace found her backbone.
Andrew, look at your wife. She's driving me and Sophia to despair. She came back and immediately wanted to kick Sophia out. Sophia is expecting. What if something happens to her?
Narrator, tone, serious. Andrew, furious, stormed over and slapped Isabella without a word.
Isabella, is this how you act as a daughter-in-law?
Narrator, tone, serious. His slap landed right where Grace had hit, turning the already swollen area purple. The pain made Isabella look at him in disbelief. Narrator, tone, sad. Isabella touched her cheek, and the sharp pain made her gasp. Only then did she realize she had been hit. She looked at Andrew. His once gentle and handsome features were now twisted, far from the refined man she remembered.
Andrew, why don't you ask your mom what she did? Why don't you ask your dear cousin what she did? This is my home. I came back to find your cousin wearing my clothes, my jewelry, live streaming in my living room without my permission.
Narrator, tone, serious. Andrew showed a fleeting hint of guilt.
I didn't know.
Narrator, tone, serious, but one look at Sophia's tear-streaked face, and he forgot all his guilt.
My mom is your mother-in-law. As a daughter-in-law, this is your duty. Who boasts about doing their duty? Apologize to Mom and Sophia now.
Narrator, tone, serious. Isabella's last bit of hope vanished.
Andrew, so you're determined to protect your mom and this distant cousin, right?
What do you mean?
Divorce.
Isabella, are you serious?
Of course. And now, take your mom and get out of my house. This is my home.
You've gone too far. How dare you, as a daughter-in-law, kick me out?
This house was bought by my parents. I have the right to decide who lives here. Leave before I call the police.
Narrator, tone, serious. Grace clutched her chest, cursing.
You wretch, you useless woman, how dare you kick me out? I'll...
Narrator, tone, serious. Isabella dialed 911. Sophia and Andrew, fearing she would make a scene, hurriedly persuaded Grace to leave.
Sis, what you're doing is really wrong.
What else should I do?
Narrator, tone, serious. Isabella found an ice pack for her face, looking at Sophia indifferently.
Leave before I lose my temper.
Narrator, tone, serious. Sophia, unwilling, bit her lip, wanting to provoke Isabella further. Isabella sneered, stepping forward and yanking the necklace from her neck.
My things, return them all.
Narrator, tone, serious. Sophia gasped at the broken diamond necklace.
You.
Do you want me to do it?
Narrator, tone, serious. Isabella grabbed her face, her fingers moving to her earlobe. Those were her wedding diamond earrings. Sophia, fearing Isabella would tear her earlobe, quickly took off the earrings and threw them at her.
Who wants your junk?
Narrator, tone, serious. The diamond earrings fell, breaking into two pieces. Isabella trembled with anger. Those were her mother's keepsakes. Narrator, tone, serious. How dare Sophia? Isabella slapped her, making her lip bleed.
Sophia, pick up my things and get out.
Narrator, tone, serious. Sophia was defiant. Isabella poured the water from the vase on her. Sophia screamed.
Isabella, you're crazy.
Narrator, tone, serious. Isabella coldly closed the door. Sophia screamed outside.
Isabella, I won't let you get away with this.
It was no surprise to me that Sophia would stir things up online. The next day, TikTok and Weibo were flooded with trending topics about me, the ungrateful daughter-in-law who kicked out her husband, mother-in-law, and pregnant cousin. How can this woman be so vicious? Her cousin is pregnant.
Exactly, and how dare a woman be disrespectful to her mother-in-law? It's outrageous. If it were me, I would have divorced her long ago. A woman like this wouldn't be wanted in our village. I'm a woman, and I'm furious. Even if the family is wealthy, you can't humiliate your husband like that. Marriage is a partnership. As a mom, I can't stand seeing a pregnant cousin being kicked out. This woman is too cruel. Support the righteous netizens in exposing her. Support the exposure +1.
These online trolls have no idea about the full story. They're just being manipulated and think they're righteous. It's disgusting.
Just note down the IDs. We'll sue them one by one later.
Molly noted the IDs while adding.
Got it. I've upgraded Sophia's contract. She won't get away with this.
Indeed, Sophia gained more followers from this incident. Now she lives in the property jointly owned by Andrew and me, persistently streaming and upholding her so-called justice. Of course, she presents it all very nobly to the public. She claimed she stayed at my house because my husband was sent abroad, so she came to a relative's house to help. Now, she's kindly letting relatives stay at her place. Her online fans praised her for being kind and generous. My best friend and I plan to go to court today to file a lawsuit against Andrew. While Molly went to get the car, I waited quietly at the door. Unexpectedly, I ran into Sophia at the door. Since she moved out of my house, her clothes had noticeably downgraded, but they were still worth thousands. Meanwhile, I hadn't rested well these past few days and had been staying at the office, wearing just a $29.90 t-shirt.
Sis, after kicking me out, why do you look so down and out? Could it be that you were living off Andrew's money all along?
I couldn't be bothered to lift an eyelid.
Sophia, embarrassed and angry, pointed at me and shouted,
Isabella, don't get too cocky. Let me tell you, I'm the top influencer at this company. With me here, you won't last.
Just then, my best friend pulled up in a McLaren. I glanced at Sophia, got into the McLaren, and drove off. That night, as expected, Sophia smeared my reputation online again. My photo sitting in a McLaren was twisted into a story of infidelity and being kept.
I really didn't expect this, sis. She could be so foolish.
Sophia cried while pushing Andrew into the camera frame. Andrew played the role of the betrayed husband to perfection.
I never thought I would be betrayed by my wife. We met in college, and back then she was.
Andrew's nostalgic words made me sick. How did I not see before how shameless he was, using my most precious memories for publicity? After that live stream, I became a pariah online. Sophia called me triumphantly.
Sis, do you regret kicking me out of the house?
I had my best friend record the call and calmly replied,
No regrets. After all, I still live in the spacious apartment in the city center, legally married to Andrew. And you, carrying Andrew's child, can only call him cousin. The baby is almost due, and you still have no status.
Sophia was clearly stunned. After a long pause, she finally said fearfully,
You actually know.
I smiled at her.
Of course I know, otherwise why would I have kicked you out? Imagine if people online found out that their kind-hearted cousin was actually a homewrecker.
I didn't finish the sentence and hung up the phone. Sophia, enjoy your last moments before your downfall. Just as I expected, Sophia broke down and kept calling me.
I beg you, please don't expose me as the other woman. I beg you.
I ignored her for several days. She also stopped posting for several days. When the situation had simmered enough, I started my counterattack. On the first day, I registered a Twitter account and directly retweeted Sophia's post with just one sentence. I am the one who kicked Sophia out. In no time, all the netizens flocked to my Twitter to curse me, and Sophia couldn't stop them. I set my Twitter to allow comments only from followers, and private messages could only be sent by people I followed. Taking advantage of the crowd, I posted my first tweet. A purchase record of a McLaren. It immediately slapped many netizens in the face. Where are those who called her a kept woman? Come out and bark.
A rich and beautiful woman buys her own car, and she can't even drive it?
So, a woman buying a car means she's being kept? Where did this stereotype come from? Get lost.
The tweet caused a heated debate. Many of the most aggressive netizens refused to apologize. I then posted a second tweet, simply 9 pictures. The first one was a property deed with only my name on it. 2 pictures were evidence of Andrew transferring assets. The remaining 6 were bank statements showing I had been giving Grace $2,000 every month for years. The trending topic was instantly dominated by me. With just one headline, living off a woman.
Wow, this is called unfilial? I also want an unfilial daughter-in-law who gives me $2,000 every month.
Don't fight with me. I only need $1,000.
I'll take $500.
Wow, so malicious. Giving $2,000 every month, even after being kicked out. Still sending money. Anyone with a brain would know it's because of the cousin.
Seeing the tide turn, Grace and Sophia took turns calling me. Grace was still as condescending as ever.
You haven't given us any children, why are you causing such a ruckus?
I responded calmly. You're overthinking it. I have no intention of continuing with you all. Divorce. Grace was furious at the word divorce, cursing.
Shameless woman, you've been with my son for 5 years, who else would want you?
You think our family will suffer from the divorce? Let me tell you, you're the one losing out. As for Andrew, he begged me not to divorce. Transferring assets during marriage is a major fault, and he wouldn't get much money in the divorce.
Please, don't divorce me. I'll lose everything.
I stood before him, slapped him in front of everyone. Andrew, from the day you laid hands on me, our marriage was over. Prepare for the divorce. Then I added, I hope you have a son. I know the child your cousin is carrying is yours. Andrew's face turned pale.
You knew.
I sneered and drove away. The online uproar grew more intense, and Andrew couldn't withstand the pressure, so he deleted his account and disappeared. During this time, his entire focus was on the online chaos, and I managed to bring evidence of his financial misconduct during our marriage to court. The divorce ruling came down quickly. Despite my efforts to salvage the situation, Andrew still got one of the houses and a share of the company. As I walked out of the courthouse, Sophia flaunted her pregnancy in front of me.
Isabella, so what if you're divorced? We still have a house and shares. I'm still an influencer, and I can live well.
Grace, to spite me, even had Sophia and Andrew register their marriage that very day. During this period, Sophia didn't touch her account. She had just married Andrew, and both were hot topics, bound to be criticized.
I waited for about 3 months until Sophia gave birth. Grace sent me a message on WeChat.
Daughters-in-law should be able to bear children. I'm so happy to have a grandson. Some hens that can't lay eggs are just unlucky, occupying someone else's place without being able to have children.
Sophia even called me and sent an invitation to the banquet.
Sis, I'm so happy now. I really have to thank you.
Really? I have an even happier gift for you.
That day, I posted screenshots of Grace's WeChat messages and recordings of my conversations with Sophia online. In the recordings, Sophia admitted to being the other woman, with no room for manipulation. Her image as a kind relative was utterly shattered. Grace's vile behavior was also exposed and criticized by netizens. Unable to bear the harassment, Grace and Sophia came to my company to cause trouble.
Apologize online immediately and say that everything you posted was false. Otherwise, I'll make sure everyone knows about your past with my son.
Grace still acted high and mighty, as if she had every right. I watched them like clowns, saying nothing. Seeing more people gathering, Sophia lowered her voice and threatened me.
I know you work at this company. You didn't put Andrew's name on the property deed, and you still have to pay the mortgage, right? I'm a big influencer for this company. I can easily get you fired. If you don't want to lose your job, make a video apologizing to me now.
What makes you think I have to help you?
Don't be ungrateful. I'm a big influencer for this MCN. If the boss finds out that you ruined my carefully maintained account, let's see how you handle it.
Of course, I'll handle it.
Sophia reached out to hit me. I grabbed her hand and slapped her back.
Sophia, take a good look at your penalty clause.
What do you mean?
Sophia, not well educated, didn't realize the seriousness of the situation. Grace, on the other hand, was ready to attack me.
You barren woman, how dare you hit Sophia? I
snapped my fingers, and my friend brought security to pin Sophia and Grace to the ground.
Ms. Zhao, should we file a lawsuit today?
Ms. Zhou? Ms. Qian, aren't you the boss?
I'm a shareholder or a boss, but the major shareholder, the biggest boss, is Isabella, Ms. Zhao.
Sophia turned pale. When Andrew arrived, he saw Sophia and his mother pinned to the ground and started cursing.
Isabella, you wicked woman. How dare you treat my mom and Sophia like this? Sophia is still in confinement, and my mom is old.
I had the security pin Andrew down too and slapped him.
Andrew, don't forget we're divorced. You have no right to boss me around. Your mom and your mistress came to my company to cause trouble. I didn't throw them out, which is already very kind.
Then, I threw Sophia's contract in front of him.
Now, think about how to handle the joint debt you and Sophia owe, Mr. Lin.
Seeing the tenfold penalty clause, Andrew fainted on the spot. Over the years, Andrew has taken at least $8 million in assets from me. Giving him this $8 million without clear reasons, it hurts me deeply.
You did it on purpose, didn't you? You set me up.
I lifted my head, looking down at her from above. Sophia must be familiar with this look. Back when she was in my home, she looked at me the same way, relying on her pregnancy and Grace's affection for her. She never took me seriously. Now, being stared at with the same look, she felt extremely uncomfortable.
Sophia, you walked into this trap yourself. I was just conducting normal business from start to finish. It was you who got greedy for the high signing bonus, you who created a persona online to manipulate public opinion. It's all your own fault.
Sophia went wild, struggling on the ground, still trying to rush at me with punches and kicks. But it was all in vain. I stood tall and walked away with confidence. Perhaps the penalty amount was too intimidating. Early in the morning, Andrew was kneeling at my door.
Isabella, I was wrong, really wrong. I was blinded by foolishness, I couldn't resist Sophia's temptation.
I looked at him coldly and shut the door with a bang. Seeing that I ignored him, Andrew started live streaming while kneeling at my door. I opened my phone to check the live stream, and many people began to morally criticize me.
People say a reformed rake is worth his weight in gold. Why is this woman so heartless?
Exactly, which man doesn't stray a bit? It's just an indiscretion.
He only made a mistake that all men make. Now that he's admitted it, why can't she forgive him?
Netizens are always generous with other people's lives. I just smiled silently, put on my headphones, and enjoyed my face mask. Andrew knelt at my door for 3 hours, and many neighbors in the community group started advising me.
Family matters should be resolved at home.
Exactly, which wife would let her husband lose face like this?
I posted a picture of my divorce certificate in the group. Those who tried to morally pressure me immediately fell silent. I tagged them one by one.
Dear Saints, when will you open your doors and welcome unrelated men into your homes? Given your kindness, I'm sure your husbands wouldn't mind.
The group fell silent. After a while, I saw 2 private messages pop up.
Sorry.
Not forgiven.
Then I happily blocked them. Andrew's live stream continued. When he reached the top of the live streaming chart, I called the police. When I saw the police car from my window, I opened the door. Seeing me, Andrew's eyes lit up. He crawled to my feet, holding my leg and crying.
Isabella, I knew you were the kindest. You wouldn't be so heartless. You'll forgive me, right? We've been together for so many years. I'll change, I won't look for other women outside. Come back, Isabella.
I couldn't help but laugh and spoke calmly in front of 150,000 viewers.
You got it wrong. You should say, come back, my fool, my money. Andrew, who gave you the audacity to think you could start a family with a mistress, have a child, and then come to your ex-wife's door to morally pressure her because the mistress is in debt? When you have enough money, you go to the mistress. When you don't, you come to your ex-wife for moral pressure. Andrew, who do you think you are? How capable and bold do you think you are? Not only will I not entertain you, but your mistress also owes me money, and you both will repay every cent. You were so eager to marry the mistress, now take on the joint debt, Mr. Lin.
Isabella, you've changed. You've become so harsh, so cold. You weren't like this before. Weren't you the one who loved me the most? You must have changed your heart. Isabella, you really disappoint me.
Andrew acted like a melodramatic hero in front of the camera. I don't know who gave him the courage to think I couldn't live without him. I waved to the police coming upstairs.
Officer, he's the one harassing me.
Seeing the police, Andrew's face changed. He tried to run, leaving his phone behind. But years of indulgence had made his body less agile. As the police took him away, his dejected figure looked like a dog. Disgusting. How did I ever love him? After Andrew was detained, my former mother-in-law, Grace, tried to cause trouble for me again. She and Sophia started a live stream, planning to provoke me. They thought if I reacted, they could smear my reputation online and pressure me to drop the lawsuit for compensation. Naive. Did they really think I was that foolish?
What's going on here?
You actually called the police?
Do you have no shame? With the police involved, how will you live in this neighborhood?
I waved my finger and gave Grace a contemptuous smile.
Whoever harasses me will be the one embarrassed. I follow the law, so what do I have to fear? Instead of worrying about me, you should think about where to find some money to hire a lawyer for your defense.
Grace was so angry she almost fainted.
Ma'am, you need to calm down. Apologize and leave, or you will be detained.
I'm sorry. It won't happen again.
But with the police present, she couldn't act out at my doorstep. To avoid being detained, she lowered her head, constantly nodding and apologizing to the police and to me.
I don't forgive.
Grace and Sophia turned pale with rage and humiliation. But before they could cause a scene, the police decisively took them away. While they were detained, I promptly filed an appeal. Sophia's breach of contract compensation was a marital debt, and I calculated it to be exactly $8 million. The newly acquired assets were immediately frozen. When Grace and Andrew received the court summons, their faces turned green.
You spendthrift. Look at what you've done.
Don't you dare blame this on me.
To gain sympathy, they even brought the baby. The infant was accidentally dropped during their scuffle and tragically passed away on the spot. Seeing her precious grandchild dead, Grace suffered a heart attack and died instantly.
It wasn't my fault. It was an accident.
In a desperate move to make Andrew repay the debt, Sophia exposed many of his illegal activities. Originally, I could have been implicated. But fortunately, I was already divorced from him. In the end, I received the $8 million in compensation, and Sophia and Andrew were sentenced to 3 and 5 years respectively for financial crimes.
On the day he was imprisoned, my friend and I posted on social media. On the balcony of our spacious apartment, we opened a bottle of champagne.
Celebrating a bright future.
To new beginnings.